Welcome to the Egg Whisper Show. We're here to talk about the lube and products you need when you're trying to conceive. And this is one of that actually rhymed. This should be a song. Um, and that's one of the most common questions that I get from patients. What lube should I use? What else can I do to give myself the best chance for pregnancy? I have one of the most amazing women, I think, in the world on today's show, and that's Wendy Strgar. Thank you, Wendy, for joining us today.
Such a pleasure. Love to be with you, Amy.
Yeah, I think part of doing this show is to bring people on that just inspire me to just keep moving the science forward, and you're definitely doing that, and we'll get more into that here in a second. So I want to share with our listeners a little bit more about Wendy. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, and she holds multiple U.S. patents for biomatch technology, a leading scientific approach applying biomimicry to sexual health and hygiene products. Good Clean Love offers the #1 selling natural organic brand in the United States with products on more than 50,000 store shelves. That must be pretty cool to walk into like a Target and be like, that's my product. Her lubricants have been named in an NIH study as among the safest in the market and have been distinguished by PETA as working for regulatory change. She is named one of the top 25 leading health tech CEOs in 2021. So you guys know why I'm super excited to have her on today. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's such a delight to be with you. And yeah, it's kind of funny how success catches up to you. You're doing things forever and ever, and then somehow you get noticed. And yeah, it's very rewarding, right? Because actually what that whole bio doesn't say is just the number of emails that we get at Good Clean Love about women who just say, you changed my life. I feel better for the first time in a decade. So that's what I love about what I get to do every day is just really try to make real solutions for real people.
And this is a passion project for you. You started it in your kitchen. So I'd love for you to share your story with all of us about your background and what set the stage for you to start creating intimate care products.
Yeah, so I was about 37 or 38. I just had my fourth child. I basically am the poster child for everything that can go wrong in a vaginal reproductive area, right? After four live births, I had prolapse. I had always pain with sex. I had to have an operation for the prolapse, which creates another whole situation and tenderness. I mean, that was so much worse than giving birth. I couldn't believe how painful it was. But 10, 20 years later, I'm really grateful. My doctor's like, you're going to be happy I told you to do that. And in fact, I am. So I had a lot of vaginal problems from having children for so long. And, I nursed every kid for years and years. And so everything your body goes through with that estrogen withdrawal, it really affects your vaginal biome health in really very meaningful ways, in ways that I didn't understand at the time. Also, my husband is as different from me as night and day. He's a physician, he's a psychiatrist. But the very first day I met him, I thought, this is the guy God sent to me. I knew. But next year, I think, is going to be our 40th anniversary. And I have amazing sex with him, like mind blowing, like unbelievable, like we cannot believe we're having the experience sex. This is 40 years later. But, when I first started 20 years ago, we struggled with our sex life a lot, like many, many couples do. And so I was always looking for solutions to make that part of our life work, because the idea that we would stop doing that, I knew basically that we would get divorced. And I had too many kids and I didn't want to do that. So it really was a passion project to sustain my own like intimate life. But the more I learned from the mothers I knew, the more I knew that it wasn't just about me, right? Like almost every woman I knew had those problems.
And I imagine you were testing all your products on your husband and you.
So it was very easy to get him to buy in, as little by little I was taking money out of our home credit line, and there was a moment in time where we said, okay, we're done. That's all the money we can spend on this. And from that moment forward, actually, Good Clean Love had to survive on its own revenue, which is very unusual. Almost no consumer brands do that. And so we just recently took an investment in And we had some angel investors when we first got into some really big stores, like in 2015. 2014 and 15 was when we broke into like Target and Kroger. And that's the first time, the only other time when we took money. And I actually used that money for 4 years on inventory. And so we never really were that platform that was like spending millions of dollars to get users, right? Our users really are all homegrown and mostly from people who found the product from their doctor or from a friend, from a board online. I mean, our reviews read like a cult following, honestly, because people feel better. Literally, that is the big difference. They feel better. And so they never leave us.
And then when you were creating your products, what did you learn about the makeup of what was already out there in terms of lubricants and products already on the market?
It was a horror show, right? The first time that was ever studied was when our product was named the safest product in the market. And so we were up against the KY, the Astroglide, all the kind of standard OTC brands. So of that group, our product was the safest in market. And they didn't actually do that study to like study lubricants, even though that seems like a reasonable thing to want to learn about. They did it because the NIH had funded a group of about 14 biophysicists around the world with trying to develop a buffer gel to prevent HIV and STDs. And because right at that moment, the cases were really on the rise, even despite quite a bit of education in the first decade of the 2000s. So the numbers were really going up. And so the biophysicist that became my friend and mentor at Johns Hopkins was quoted in the study saying, basically all lubricants need to be rethought. I thought for years and years I was allergic to the ingredients in those products. Well, it turns out that it was never an allergy, like a chemical allergy, the way people think about. It was really actually fundamentally a biophysics disaster, right? Like products that are by nature hyperosmolar. So that's anything in the glycol family. So propylene glycol, polyethylene glycol. There's a ton of different glycols that are used in these products. They're so much heavier than the mucus and the tissue in the vaginal biome that they pull all the moisture out of those cells and basically create an entire sloughing off of the vaginal epithelium, which, you know, Amy, as a physician, is where we actually have our immune defenses, right? Some doctors will say it's a self-cleaning oven. It's not actually a self-cleaning oven. If you're really as healthy as you can be, and we know that's true only about a third of all women, right? The other 2/3 of women, this isn't true, but a third of all women have a robust lactobacilli response to whatever obstacles come her way. So even a bad lubricant that's hyperosmolar, somehow that woman will bounce back and actually the healthy lactobacilli will take over. And when you have healthy lactobacilli, there's a whole cycle of glycogens and all kinds of things that are protecting the environment from bad bacteria. Now, we don't understand why those women have that, right? And why they have it persistently and with so much resilience. In the same way that we don't understand why another third never have it. They're continuously sloughing off their vaginal epithelium and always actually in some form of BV, even if they don't know it. They might not even be symptomatic, but they are definitely in an immune compromised place reproductively. And then the middle group is sort of struggling between the two. We don't know nearly as much as we need to about that group, but we do know that when you start to regulate the vaginal biome with products that are biomatched, that's what my whole patent thing is about. It's all biomimicry, right? So it's not a drug action. It's really important, right? It's just that it's providing the healthy types of lactic acid that healthy lactobacilli will have to use to nourish themselves. And it also is bringing the pH down to the healthiest levels so those lactobacilli can live there. And so we know that the pH has to be 3.7 in the vaginal area for good lactobacilli to live there. And we know that the vast majority of products are at 5, 6, 7. So as soon as you're pushing the pH out of range, and actually almost every fertility lubricant on the market all pushes the pH up to 7 because that's the pH of sperm, right? So they're like, okay, we'll set the biome to the pH of the sperm. Terrible idea. Why would we do that? This is how it is in nature, right? Like the vaginal pH is low, and that lets only the strongest sperm make it through that low pH up into the canal on the day that you can get pregnant, which is the day that you're always sort of gaming for, right? Is when you have cervical mucus, right? Just 24 hours of a month. And that cervical mucus is at a 7. So that's when you want to be at a 7, right? Is when you have cervical mucus. But every other day of the month, you want to be at 3.7 to 4.0 max so that you can have good, healthy lactobacilli living there.
This is all such important information for people to know, because I know my patients really like data. They really like to know the numbers and what they should be looking for in products and how they should tailor the products to where they are in their cycle. So I love everything that you're sharing. So there are some pretty sobering stats about what health issues that ingredients in commercial lubes can cause. Can you explain those to us?
When we talk about getting into a state of BV, which we have histology reports that show that 4 hours of exposure of a hyperosmolar product, so that could be your KYs, wets, right? All those standard glycol, especially glycol based lubricants, and I think the jury is really out on the pre-seed and a lot of products like that because they are also hyperosmolar. So how they can make the claims they do does not make any sense to me in the science that I know, and they seem to be making them. So I would not use those products personally myself because those products have such a quick impact on the health of the biome. Basically what you're doing then is if you push your biome up to a 7 to get pregnant for sperm to come in, then you're also creating an environment where unhealthy bacteria will be thriving. There is actually, Amy, as you know, a lot of data about HPV and other kinds of STDs. Infections take advantage of an imbalanced biome, right? Those are the bacteria that thrive because there's even studies actually out of Africa. I don't know if you've ever read these, but women in that third of a group that have good healthy lactobacilli, they don't get AIDS. They do not succumb to AIDS, whereas the rest of the population does. So we know that there is a legitimate immune response to not just AIDS, but a lot of STDs when your biome is healthy. So that's the most concerning of all. And we know that depending on the socioeconomics and racial and all kinds of factors play into it, women have a BV condition, 30% of the time in their life. And for some women, African American, Hispanic American, that percentage can be much higher. And we don't know why that's true either. We only know that these are some data points, but I think that just in the same way that we think about gut health, and it took 20 years for us to accept that antibiotics was not the answer for our immune system in our gut. And now the vast majority of doctors who read at anything new will tell you to use probiotics. So probiotics now multi hundreds $1 billion industry. And so I think vaginal health is, and it makes sense, right? Because we have one biome. We don't have 5 separate biomes. They're all connected. And so when women have flare stuff in their gut, they frequently have flare problems in their vaginal biome and other places too, right? So, again, not enough research, not enough facts, but we have a lot of anecdotal information that we know that when we want to get pregnant, we want to be as healthy as we can be. And for sure, we want our biome, whether that be our gut biome or our vaginal biome, to really be reflecting the highest immune function that we can have.
And I think that sometimes patients also have a lot of pain in their vagina when the vaginal biome isn't right. even to the point where they're not having sex and they have to do a medical procedure in my office like IUI, and sometimes people will even home inseminate to become parents. So, how can they find the right lube to help with this?
Well, and I think actually, Amy, the conversation about pain is a really important one to have. And I think it's important to enlarge our idea of vaginal discomfort and pain beyond the sexual moment, right? Like there's many women who have vaginal pain and they never think about sex because it feels bad to have a vagina just every day. Women who have things like interstitial cystitis, or sometimes they'll have like flare conditions, vulvodynia, vestibulodynia, or like lichen sclerosis. Most of these conditions are mostly names for things that we don't have a lot of scientific understanding of. But let me just say that it's like your skin, your vulvar skin feels really bad or tight or closed, right? And sometimes just going to the bathroom is really painful, right? I've seen women coming out of a bathroom crying that with our wipes, it didn't hurt her to wipe. Of course, we don't have the conversations we need to be having about this. And so many women suffer in pain for such a long time. Many women, actually, Amy, and I know you know these facts even better than I do, they actually only get diagnosed when they have infertility issues. That is the first time they've even had like a lengthy conversation about this has been going on with my vagina for so many years. We have several studies and one with Dr. Amy about how to restore vaginal biome health. It's a trio of 3 products that we recommend, and one is a wash. So vaginal washes have a terrible reputation, and for good reason, right? Like the vast majority of them, and soap actually contributes to BV in a lot of women, right? Saponifiers and even bar soaps, very harsh soap ingredients, not at all good for lactobacilli. That's another study we're doing about comparing soap and our wash, just as an example. But we have a lot of evidence that our soap, which is really largely an aloe rinse, it's called Balance Wash, helps to restore the good lactic acid that you need to attract good lactobacilli. It's very soothing. A lot of women who have flare conditions feel way better. You would use that with one of our 2 vaginal gels. In our study, we use Restore Vaginal Gel to moisturizer. And again, 95% aloe. It's mostly an aloe product, but we add this really important lactic acid to it. We bring the pH down to 3.7. And so basically, it's almost sort of think of as a prebiotic so that good, healthy lactobacilli can hang out there, right? And then the third thing that we recommend for a lot of women, and I think we do in your study as well, is we offer a BioFresh vaginal suppository, homeopathic suppository, but it has also native lactobacilli. So the most dominant species being Crispatus. A lot of studies are showing that's what we really want to be colonizing in the vagina. And there's a few other smaller species that are in there as well. And that combination of products over a couple of weeks' time. And then when we're following and we take the test for LH, you say what the tests are, I can't remember.
Okay, your ovulation predictor kit.
Right. So they test at different parts of their cycle so they know when they're going to ovulate, right? And then they would go to our biogenesis formula, which is the only fertility lubricant on the market that's actually biomatched in that it's designed to be at a pH of 4, which is where we want that pH to be, and actually only goes up with this magical buffering capacity. I love science when sperm or cervical mucus shows up. And then it jumps up to a 7, but it does not artificially push your pH up to 7 hanging out for that moment. It only goes to 7 at the moment that it's important. And we've had really great success. And I'm super excited to see how this works with the combination of really preparing the biome. I'm so excited about it.
I am too. And what is biomatching? I mean, how do you do that? What does that mean?
I mean, biomatching is like biomimicry, right? So what you're trying to do is figure out what is natural and already there. Bausch and Lomb does that with their BioTrue eye drops. Basically, the same idea of what we do by saying, okay, what is the optimal, healthiest condition for the vagina? And how do we help the vagina remember itself? And that's basically what biomimicry is.
And I want to talk more about biogenesis. I think it's magic. I mean, I have patients that tell me that they have the best sex that they've ever had. And I actually allow my patients to use lubricants for their collections as well, because I've studied biogenesis under the microscope and I can see how it looks when exposed to sperm. So I allow patients to use it for their IUIs, for example. And I do think that if a guy has a really good experience collecting a sample, then the sample is going to be much better than if it's a terrible experience. So, what can you tell us more about what makes this different than, let's say, your pre-seed and your KYs?
So for sure, no propylene glycols, right? No glycols. A lot of those products also have parabens. Actually, and parabens are illegal in most countries in the world. Like the United States is actually one of few countries where they still allow personal care products to be made with parabens. And it's so ridiculous because there are other substitute preservatives that can do the job without the use of parabens, which are carcinogenic, right? When we formulate products, we're always looking for a few things. One is that we want to use as few ingredients as possible, right? Because, and that's why we never make anything that are creams, right? Like anything that combines oil and water requires so many emulsifiers and other things to actually bring those together. We don't use flavors or fragrances in anything except if we do it's essential oils or organic compliant flavors, things you can eat. A lot of people don't understand how toxic fragrance can be. So another thing we do in that particular product is we match the salts to the exact salts that support sperm motility. And then we do this work so that we're always supporting the vaginal biome. Even if we're supporting sperm health, we don't want to do it at the expense of vaginal health. And it is actually the most unique product on the market. So I'm super excited, Amy, to be doing this work with you and having people learn about it. And, we're going to have our conception box here, and then people will get all your great directions.
Where can people learn more about Good Clean Love and where they can get your products? Where's the best place for people to go?
We're in the middle of a study, Dr. Amy and Vaginal Biome Science, which is our scientific research arm of our businesses. I don't know how easy or hard it is to enroll with Dr. Amy, but if people want to enroll, that actually gets you, a lot of attention and product. And if you want to just try it for yourself, right, have this conception kit on Dr. Amy's website and also on our website at goodcleanlove.com. But now, if you wanted to just get some preconception products, you would get Restore, Balance, and BioNourish, and then you would get the Biogenesis, and you can get all those things at goodcleanlove.com. We really love it when people come to us at Good Clean Love because we're actually really able to help them in so many other ways with how to use this product, or when many people are trying to sort of rebalance their biome, as you know, right? Like other things might come up. Maybe they get a yeast infection, maybe whatever. Things happen, right? Because it's never a straight line. We have a lot of support and information on our website to help people kind of maneuver to a really healthy place. Vaginal biome health is like as important as gut health, right? Like in terms of clearing and cleaning and having a solid, robust immune response, it affects so many other areas in your health, not just fertility, but for sure fertility. So anyway, and I wrote 2 books, Sex That Works and Love That Works. You can get those on the website. And Amy, I just want to tell you in front of everybody, I think you're the best of the best in this space. And I think when people get to find you, they are so lucky. And I am so grateful to have these multiple opportunities to work with you, really.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much.